Have you ever wondered about the unseen forces that truly govern a city? In 1970s D.C., as heroin poisoned the streets and a serial killer stalked the shadows, one formidable woman, known only as 2 Foots, carved out an empire of brutal justice and surprising compassion. Her unheard adventures reveal a raw truth about power, survival, and the impossible choices made to protect what little light remained in a city consumed by darkness. Join us as we uncover the astonishing 5-year reign of this legendary figure, a story of a woman who defied every expectation and became a force of nature. The year was 1970, and Southeast D.C. simmered under the weight of its past and the threat of its future. The scars of the '68 riots were still fresh, etched into the psyche of the community and visible in the burnt-out shells of buildings that dotted the landscape. A new insidious poison, heroin, began to seep into the vibrant but vulnerable neighborhoods of Anacostia and Congress Heights, its tendrils wrapping around families and futures alike. Yet, amidst this encroaching decay, a singular figure emerged, a woman who operated by a code entirely her own. Sally Crawford, at 26, was a force of nature, a striking contrast to the grim reality around her. Whispers followed her like a shadow, describing her as pretty as Jet magazine. A 5'10" vision with a caramel complexion, brilliant brown eyes that seemed to absorb every detail, and a presence that was all woman, all curve and all warning. But beneath this captivating exterior lay an unyielding spirit, hard as bricks and vicious as a black mamba. She didn't merely navigate the mean streets, she dictated their rhythm, a law unto herself in a city that had forgotten its own. Her rules were simple, her boundaries absolute. Her money, her family, and her body were sacrosanct. Transgression meant meeting the unwavering resolve of her justice, often delivered with the cold, heavy kiss of her brass knuckles. Each night, she performed a ritual, washing down the day's grit with Gordon's gin, straight up, a testament to her unyielding self-reliance. This was the world Sally Two Foots Crawford not only survived but dominated. As 1971 dawned, a new terror began to cast a long shadow over the city, particularly chilling the black community in Southeast D.C. The Freeway Phantom was a name whispered in hushed tones, a specter that stole young, black girls from the very streets they called home. Fear, thick and pervasive, became an unwelcome currency, but the woman of the streets, known as 2 Foots, utterly refused to pay its toll. While others retreated, her resolve only hardened. The local street crews, usually boisterous and territorial, fell silent, their bravado muted by the pervasive dread. But where fear caused stagnation, 2 Foots saw a need for unwavering action. She didn't don a badge or join the official hunt for the killer. Her protection was far more potent. It was a reputation, forged in unyielding strength and ruthless efficiency. She made it unequivocally clear that her territory, the blocks where her beloved cousins and her aging mother resided, was a no-fly zone, a sanctuary she would defend with every fiber of her being. The very air around her seemed to carry this unspoken decree, a silent promise of absolute protection for those under her care. Her presence was a declaration, a line drawn in the sand against the encroaching darkness, a testament to her unshakable commitment to her community, even as the city around her trembled with fear. One sweltering evening in 1971, a local hustler named Slick made a grave miscalculation. Emboldened by the city's fear, he sought to exploit the prevailing unease, attempting to muscle in on a small-time numbers runner who, unbeknownst to Slick, operated under the fierce woman's unspoken protection. His audacity was a direct challenge to her established order, a breach of the unspoken code she so vigilantly enforced. The fierce woman found Slick in a dimly lit pool hall off Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the clack of billiard balls. She moved with a predatory stillness, her long, graceful legs carrying her without a sound. She didn't speak, her silence a more potent threat than any shouted warning. As she approached Slick, her brilliant brown eyes narrowed to slits, reflecting the neon glow of the bar sign. The only sound that broke the hushed tension was the chilling, metallic whisper of brass knuckles sliding onto her fingers. Slick, caught in her gaze, saw not just a woman, but the beast they said she was born, raw, unyielding power encapsulated in human form. The jukebox seemed to cease its melody, the chatter of the patrons fading into an eerie quiet. The ensuing silence was abruptly shattered by the sickening thud of brass against bone. Swiftly and decisively, she took his money, his watch, and more importantly his pride, leaving him with a broken jaw and an unmistakable message. The only thing you're running in my city is your mouth, and I just shut that down." The brutal efficiency of her justice served as a stark reminder of her dominion. Following the stark lesson delivered to Slick, the formidable woman solidified her grip on the streets of Southeast D.C. The incident resonated far beyond the confines of that smoky pool hall, serving as a chilling testament to her unwavering authority. Her no-fly zone became more than a mere declaration. It was an understood law, enforced by her reputation and the very real consequences of defiance. During the latter half of 1971 and into 1972, she didn't just maintain her territory. She expanded her influence through a careful balance of intimidation and strategic alliances. She wasn't seeking widespread control, but rather a stable, predictable environment for her community, free from the chaotic incursions of outsiders or the reckless actions of foolish opportunists. She moved through the neighborhood with an almost spectral presence, her movements observed, her directives implicitly followed. Her brilliant brown eyes missed nothing, scanning storefronts, observing corner gatherings, and ensuring that her unspoken rules were being honored. If a petty dispute threatened to escalate, her quiet word was often enough to de-escalate it. If a new face appeared, attempting to carve out a slice of the already precarious street economy, they were quickly met with a clear, concise warning from an intermediary, a warning that invariably invoked the name Two Foots. She was the silent partner in every major transaction, the unseen hand that guided the ebb and flow of street life, ensuring that a brutal yet reliable order prevailed. Her methods were unconventional, but in a world where formal justice often failed, her brand of justice brought a grim form of peace to her protected blocks. By 1973, Washington, D.C. found itself on the cusp of a significant political shift: home rule. This fight for local self-governance, while seemingly distant from the day-to-day struggles of the street, created a palpable power vacuum. New players, backed by external money, saw this instability as an opportune moment to exploit, and their hungry eyes turned towards Southeast. The burgeoning heroin trade, a sinister tide rising across the nation, found fertile ground in the city's uncertainty. Among these new opportunists was a particularly audacious crew from Baltimore. They were loud, arrogant, and dismissive of existing local structures, intent on establishing a dominant foothold near the historic Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge. Their strategy was aggressive, pushing their product hard and fast, disrupting the delicate economic balance the formidable woman had so painstakingly established. News of Two Foots, the woman who ran these streets, reached their ears. They laughed, scoffing at the notion of a church lady who drank gin holding sway over such a lucrative territory. Their sneers were born of ignorance, their arrogance a fatal flaw in understanding the true nature of the power they sought to challenge. They underestimated her deeply, mistaking her quiet authority for weakness, her calculated restraint for an absence of will. They believed their sheer size and numbers would intimidate, their brute force would prevail. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson. The streets of Southeast D.C. were not open for new management, not while Two Foots drew breath. Image prompt. A group of imposing men in 1970s attire, looking confident and somewhat aggressive, stand near the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge in D.C. They are gathered around a parked classic car, surveying the area with an air of territorial ambition. The bridge and urban landscape loom in the background under a slightly overcast sky, suggesting an approaching conflict. Scene 6 edit. The inevitable confrontation with the Baltimore crew was swift, brutal, and utterly without compromise. The formidable woman didn't waste time with intermediaries or messengers. She drove her own vehicle, a pristine black Cadillac, directly to their main stash house, a clear declaration of her intent. It was Saturday, and she was dressed in a tailored suit, an ensemble chosen for its sharp lines and unyielding elegance, a prelude to her Sunday service. Wrapped carefully in a blanket, resting beside her was a sawed-off shotgun, a tool of persuasion as direct as her gaze. Stepping out of her car, she faced the group of imposing men. Her voice, low and steady, cut through the tension. "You got 2 minutes to pack your bags and get back across the line." The leader, a man physically twice her size, sneered, his contempt evident. "Look at the church lady. You gonna pray us away, mama?" He grossly misjudged the woman before him. She didn't pray. With a deliberate motion, she let the blanket fall, revealing the sawed-off shotgun. The ensuing blast didn't strike the man, but tore a hole the size of a dinner plate in the wall right next to his head, showering him in plaster and dust. The sound was a thunderclap, echoing the chaos brewing beneath the city's veneer, a visceral shock that instantly wiped the sneer from his face. Her eyes, filled with vicious intent, met his. "That was a warning," she stated, reloading with a practiced, almost bored motion. "The next one is for your family." The message was clear, absolute, and terrifyingly effective. The Baltimore crew, shaken to their core, vanished by sunrise. The swift, uncompromising display of force by the formidable woman ensured their hasty retreat, a stark confirmation of her absolute dominion. She didn't seek to annex their turf. Her objective was far simpler and more profound: stability. She desired a predictable environment for the communities she watched over, a world where the only unpredictable element was herself. Throughout 1973 and into 1974, her legend grew, solidifying her status as the undisputed arbiter of order in Southeast D.C. The streets, once a volatile mosaic of competing interests, settled into a grim sort of peace under her unspoken rules. This wasn't the peace of law enforcement, but the quiet that comes from knowing the consequences of disobedience. Her methods were unconventional, often brutal, but undeniably effective. Any new threat, any burgeoning unrest, was met with a decisive, often surgical, intervention that left no room for ambiguity. She moved through the city like a phantom, her presence felt more than seen, her influence permeating every corner. Her sleek, black Cadillac became a symbol of her quiet power, a familiar sight that instilled both respect and fear. She was the paradox of protection and menace, a single figure who embodied both the problem and the solution in a community struggling to define itself amidst poverty and neglect. Her reign ensured that within her defined borders, the balance of power remained precisely where she intended it to be, firmly in her capable, uncompromising hands. By 1975, the formidable woman, now 31, was an undisputed legend. The streets of Southeast D.C. were quieter, not due to a sudden decrease in crime, but because every hustler, every corner boss, every ambitious newcomer understood precisely who was in charge. She was the unseen hand, the silent partner in countless transactions, the one figure who was never, under any circumstances, to be crossed. Yet this formidable woman maintained a remarkable duality to her life. Every Sunday morning, without fail, she would undergo a profound transformation. Her formidable brass knuckles were exchanged for pristine white gloves, and her nightly ritual of gin gave way to the solemn reverence of a hymnal. She would sit in the third pew of the Southeast Church of Christ, her head bowed in quiet contemplation, absorbing the sermon's message of redemption, the battle between good and evil, and the Lord's boundless mercy. No one in the congregation dared to openly question her presence, for they witnessed her tangible contributions to the community. They saw the woman who generously funded the church's soup kitchen, ensuring the hungry were fed. They knew she paid the rent for the elderly widow down the street, offering a lifeline of stability. They celebrated the new shoes on the feet of local children, bought with funds from an unseen benefactor. They understood the rumors, the whispered tales of the beast who walked the night, but in the light of day, in the sacred space of the church, she was simply Sister Crawford, a pillar of support and a complex embodiment of both light and shadow. As the Sunday service concluded, the formidable woman prepared to step back into the world she so fiercely governed. But as she made her way out, an old deacon, a man of quiet wisdom, gently stopped her. He didn't meet her eyes, perhaps out of respect, or perhaps out of an unspoken understanding of the depths they contained. Instead, he observed the way she carried herself, straight, unyielding, yet imbued with a profound sense of purpose. "Sister Crawford," he murmured, his voice soft but resonant, "the Lord works in mysterious ways." A faint, almost melancholic smile touched her lips, a rare glimpse into the intricate layers of her soul. She adjusted her pristine white gloves, the very hands that, just hours before, might have wielded brass knuckles, now appearing utterly delicate. "Deacon," she replied, her voice equally soft, carrying a hint of the gravel from the gin she often drank. "Some say I ain't man or woman, but born a beast. But even a beast knows where to find the light. And the Lord knows I need it more than most." With that, she stepped out into the bright D.C. sun, a complex and powerful figure walking the precarious line between the sacred and the profane. Her adventures, the calculated deals, the brutal fights, the quiet acts of savage justice, and the unexpected kindness, were never recorded in official history books. They remained the unheard adventures of Sally Two Foots Crawford, a legend whispered only in the shadows and hushed corners of Southeast D.C. Her 5-year reign was a tapestry woven with terror and protection, a testament to a woman who forged her own path, an indelible mark on the lives of all who lived through it, and a story that none would ever truly forget.